Hi everyone, welcome to the IMC Subgrantee reporting training. We'll be walking today through the guidelines and expectations for your monthly reports to ensure that you have what you need to submit your reports on time. Today, we'll talk about why reporting is important, who is responsible for the reporting, the timing for when reports are due, how to file your reports, and what to do if you need help with your reporting. Reporting is one of the most important parts of grant management, and the reason for that is that this really demonstrates that we're delivering on what we promised. So when we submit our grant proposal, of course, we identify goals and the expected programs and functions that will take to meet those goals. And what our reporting does is show, how we're progressing in pursuing those goals. For the funders, it's super important because they want to ensure that, they have a mission for their funds and they've selected our grant program to help support that mission. And so they need to kind of continually monitor to make sure that that mission is really driving the use of these funds. So from a sort of holistic perspective, the IMC is required to submit monthly reports. So we submit those around the 15th of the month. In order to facilitate that, our success really hinges on your success as well. So the goal of this grant, of course, is to help incubate your organizations and ensure that you're able to continue doing the amazing work that you've conceptualized or are already working on. So what we need to do is get that information from you so we can tell your stories and kind of combine your data with the work that we're doing, and that we all collectively then can tell a story that really shows how these grant funds are supporting the funders' goals, and how we are being good stewards of their funds as well. So as the primary grantee, the IMC is responsible for demonstrating the use of the funds, as I explained, and ensuring that we're making solid progress towards the goals kind of in line with the timeline that we've laid out. Um, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, the funder, has a lot of very specific expectations in terms of their reporting and the way that we share information. But in reality, you all don't need to worry about kind of all of those details. What we need from you are some of the questions that you'll see in the report that we've designed. So we've really built it to make it as simple as possible. It asks a lot of questions about, how many of these trainings have you attended, and what are some of the best outcomes you've seen based on your participation in this program, for example. So these questions should be pretty reasonable to interpret. There's not a lot of kind of technical knowledge required. It just requires the expertise that you have about your organizations and the work that you're doing in the communities that you're engaged with. So what we'll do is you all will each submit your reports. You are responsible for submitting these on time, and that's pretty important to us because we have to take all of your reports, and we have about 5 days to turn those around into our own report that goes to the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. So we'll take your data and stories, we'll combine those and share our collective progress. We kind of weave that into one big story and data set that we'll share with the funding agency. And this ensures it's a requirement for us to continue receiving funding, and so it ensures that we're able to continue with the grant work that we've promised. Each month, you'll need to turn in both a financial and a program report. Your financial report will include all receipts and documentation of your financial expenses for the month. Your program report will include questions related to the training you've received, the activities your organization has done, etc. Both reports are due on the 10th of the following month. So in September, for example, you'll have 10 days after the month ends to collect your information, complete your report, and submit it. These previously were due on the 5th of the month, but to allow more time for collecting the documents you need, we've extended that timeline to be due on the 10th. As a reminder, we have to turn in collective reports for everyone, summarizing all results on the 15th. So the 10th is a pretty critical deadline, so please be sure to remember to turn things in on time. Each organization has a unique record-keeping folder on Google Drive that we've set up. So in that folder, you can find a copy of your organization's documents, things like your application, your grant budget, monthly reporting form, and also monthly subfolders that you can use for uploading receipts and other documents. These receipts are part of your required grant documents, so they should be added monthly when you submit your required report. You can drag and drop files from your computer into the folder. You can upload them kind of different ways. So getting them from your computer to Google Docs should be pretty easy. But we'll take a quick look at this on the next page. And you can also click on this link here for more detailed instructions that are available at google.com. Each organization has been assigned a unique file folder with a specific link. So we'll send you that link, and then you can get into your organization's file to see any of your grant documents and your grant reporting form. You'll also find in there these monthly folders, which are used for adding your grant receipts and other files. You can drop those files straight onto the desktop there, or you can choose the new option over here. Add a file upload, and then you'll be able to select those documents straight from your computer. Once you do that, you'll see them start to upload there on the corner, and then once they're in, you'll see them populate the folder itself. And then you can exit your folder as you'd like and move around within your folder system. One thing that's important to note is as those files are uploaded, it may take a bit longer for files that are PDFs or maybe JPEGs, pictures of your receipts, things that might take a little bit longer, but just kind of be patient while that upload happens and you should be all set. So we've tried to make it as simple as possible for you to access the reports and kind of get those filed from wherever you may be. We've created an online Google form that asks questions, again, to kind of collect the data and information that we're going to need. The questions are very simple, not technical, so I think that everyone should be able to kind of work their way through that form pretty simply, but if you have questions, certainly don't hesitate to reach out. There are a few kind of key things we wanted to call out. The first is that you'll want to start at the top of the form. I know that sounds like a strange thing to say, but if you start at the bottom, it's going to look different. It's a responsive form, which means that based on the answers that you're giving us, it's going to ask you different questions as follow-ups. So one of the ways that this is really obvious is that there are questions specific to each organization based on kind of your work and proposal. So the activities and things that we'll be asking about are going to vary based on kind of how you identify yourself at the top of the form. So be sure that you start at the top and kind of work your way down through the bottom. You cannot edit the form once it's submitted. So if you need to make a correction to something you submitted, you can email us and we can kind of make that on the back end. You will be sent a copy of your completed response. So once you finish your form and hit submit, you're going to get a copy of what that response was. So you'll have a form for your record. And again, if if you see something in there that you realize is an error, you can always reach out to us, but you'll have a record of what you submitted so that you can ensure it reflects exactly what you wanted to say. The form will close after the deadline, so that way we're able to aggregate results and things aren't kind of changing as we're totaling things up and that. So do, again, adhere to those deadlines. We're going to be pretty firm on those. You can include everything that you need to answer the question, but there's no, text minimum or anything like that. So if you don't have a long answer for something, that's totally okay. Again, it's helpful to us and kind of the storytelling piece if you're as thorough as possible. But we're not looking for, a 500 word minimum or anything like that. We just kind of want the information so we can put it together. So if you're a short writer, an informal writer, totally fine. Just submit things as you would like, and we'll kind of work through it. If we have any questions or need clarification, we'll reach out to you. And we may, throughout the year find that we need to revise questions a little bit if we're not kind of getting the answers that we need, or if we're seeing any consistent confusion or anything like that. So do be aware that it may change slightly, but for the most part, this form is kind of your guideline, and it will, again, ask you the questions that you need. You fill out this form that gets documented on our back end, and we kind of record that for aggregating. We wanted to share a couple of best practices. So here are some do's and don'ts. You all can read through them, I'm sure, but kind of as a quick run through, do make sure that you share all of the numbers and data that you can. So even if it's, a tiny workshop that you did of just 3 people, but it's kind of tied to the mission of your grant proposal, we definitely want to know. So even if it feels like not a big deal to you, when we put these numbers together in terms of looking at like how many people we all served over the course of the year, things like that, these results are going to be really powerful. So don't hold back, and make sure that you tell us the stories too. So the data is important, but so are the stories, and that's really where a lot of that feel good piece comes from. So, what is it that if you call your mom at the end of the day, what are you telling her about kind of what happened that was really successful? And we want to hear those moments too. Use specific measurable language. So this is really important because it helps us to really describe what's happening more effectively. So for example, if you had a workshop, rather than saying we hosted a workshop, we want you to say 20 children, age 3 to 5 attended a 2-hour painting workshop at the IMC on July 7th. And kind of a good rule of thumb for thinking about, are my answers here specific, measurable? You can ask yourself, does it cover the who, what, when, where? And if it does, maybe how many is a good one to include in that as well. If it covers all of those questions, then you've probably got it. And again, we can follow up if we need, but would would be helpful to us if you can kind of be as detailed around those kinds of things as possible. So on the don'ts, make sure that you're not late. I know we've hammered that home today, but still want to continue hammering that home. Don't include inaccurate or irrelevant information. So again, we want to hear kind of all of the small numbers too, but if you have a workshop and you're not really sure how many people were there, let's say it was a community event and it was maybe 50 people, maybe 60 people, don't fudge those numbers. You can put 50 to 60 and note that there were no sign-in sheets or something like that if we need to do that. Um, but make sure that, if there are questions around the accuracy of a number or of something, that you're making sure that we're aware of that too, so we don't misrepresent that. And then don't be afraid to tell us if things don't work the way you thought. So let's say you plan the world's best workshop and no one shows up. Tell us why. We all learn from these things, right? We learn from failures as much as successes, and so um, it's okay to document those unexpected outcomes, and funders like that too, because it gives some good feedback about the things that we plan and expect. And so if you don't have the outcomes that you were expecting, that's okay. Just let's kind of make sure that you share that, and then we can see what we can do to kind of learn from that and better understand it. So I know we covered a lot of ground kind of quickly today, and this is new to some of you in terms of reporting. So if you do have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help. But hopefully this gave you a good foundation for getting those reports started, and we look forward to hearing the stories and the work, more about the work that you're doing, and really starting to weave together our collective story. So thank you so much for your time today and for the important work that you're doing. We will talk to you soon.